Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 2nd, 2026 Planning Board meeting. If we could first please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First order of business, we want to welcome our new member, Luciana, who's no stranger to the town of Yorktown.
Thank you
Very
for having
glad to
me.
have you.
Thank you.
All right. So first on the agenda, we have correspondence, which we have a few things that came in. Anything anybody wants to talk about?
No.
A lot of details in there.
Yeah. Anything, John?
Nothing here.
Counselor?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to the meeting minutes of February 9th, 2026. Any additions, corrections?
No.
No.
John?
I have nothing.
Counselor?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll go on to the regular portion of the meeting.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Oh, thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
It's not one of those nights where you're gonna help me all the time.
That's all right.
It's been a long week. Okay. First up is the Ryder subdivision. This is a request for reapproval. Locations 532 Underhill Avenue. See?
See? Yeah. Some things are consistent.
There's a lot of information in this book.
Hello, everyone. Ian is being my IT guy. So we're here for the reapproval of the Ryder subdivision. We went away for a while because we were trying to get the health department approval. Got it? I think it should be up. Sorry. So we were away for a while. We were working on health department approval. We had a little lapse on our end, forgetting to reapprove this or ask for an extension of the approval. We now have health department approval, so we're looking to move forward with completing the planning board approval on the project. We've already had the public hearing, and as you know, that this would more or less be the remaining step was to get the health department approval.
Anybody from the board have any questions or concerns about this?
None here.
Any concerns, John?
No.
Are there any changes to the secret record or environmental conditions in any way? Any changes to the layout or anything that the health department triggered to change?
None at all.
Nothing, none at all.
None at
And
all.
DEP was not involved in this, is that correct?
Correct. They had no jurisdiction.
Below the threshold? No. No issues.
Okay. Counselor?
No issues.
Okay, if there's no concerns from anyone. In front of us, we have a resolution reapproving the subdivision plat titled Ryder subdivision. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're not going far away, are you?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have the Ganelli subdivision. This is also a request for reapproval. Locations 2777 Quinlan Street.
So, this was another project where we were more or less at the final stage. We had, all approvals, health department approval, planning board approval on this. The owner, had a financial shortfall when it came time to pay all the recreation fees and so on and so forth. So he went away for a while. In the meantime, he renovated the existing house on the property and installed the sewer, which was part of the original approval. And the new house now, or renovated house, is connected to that sewer. And he would like to now move ahead and reestablish his previous approval for the subdivision.
Any changes, anything?
The only change is the existing house, the renovation of the existing house and installation of the sewer. I'll take that back. We did change our stormwater management. We went from rain garden to infiltrator unit. So that would be the change, but it's actually an improved, it's actually an improved way to manage the stormwater.
And you're working with the engineering department. Any issues?
Not, at this point, we haven't.
Anything from the board at this time?
I had nothing on that.
No.
Any issues, John?
So you haven't discussed this with our engineering department yet?
No, they have, it's been submitted, but we haven't gotten anything back.
Okay.
When did you submit it?
That would be my only question, whether,
a couple
you know,
weeks
Dan
back.
has anything that needs to
Yeah.
be modified pursuant to his review. That
Yeah.
would be the only question that I would have.
Why don't we just put it in the resolution?
Yeah, that'd be a good
Put
idea.
it in the resolution.
Yeah,
That's
that's fine.
the way to do it.
All right, so we'll amend it.
Yeah.
Anything in your end, Counselor?
No.
Okay. All right, so in front of us, we have a resolution reapproving the subdivision plat titled Ganelli Subdivision and Full Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan and Tree Permit as amended and as per engineering department approval.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Nice to see you again.
All right, do you have the whole agenda tonight?
Not quite.
At least the
I did
internet's working.
before
cancel
I
last
did
one.
before Friday.
Doesn't have Homeland Towers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for a record. All right, next we have the Manganjalo project. This is also a decision statement. Location 770 Blackberry Lane.
I'm ready. I reviewed the resolution. We're fine with the resolution.
Anything further from the board?
I just had one quick question. I think it came up the last meeting. Are there other intrusions into the wetland area on
Yes.
adjacent parcels?
Pretty much right down the line.
Right down the line?
Yeah, they showed the overhead last time, and
Is there anything we can do about that?
When you say adjacent parcel, this application or something else?
No,
To
the
this
adjacent-
application,
The
yeah.
adjacent parcels where the
Yeah, 'cause that
line.
conservation easement runs through the back of a few properties there.
So their neighbors are also intruding.
yeah.
No, there's, obviously, we can't have this applicant do anything about it, but perhaps a wetlands inspector could go out and see what's going on in the adjacent parcel.
Any suggestions, John?
You could refer it to the engineering department for their inspector to go out and take a look if there's any violations.
That makes sense.
Okay. So we'll talk to Dan. I'm sure he's watching downstairs.
So the board would like to
Oh, yeah.
make that referral?
Yeah, let's have him take a
yes.
look.
Got it.
Anything on your end, John?
I have no issues with this.
Counselor?
No issues.
All right, in front of us, we have a resolution approving a stormwater pollution prevention plan and wetland permit for Audra Mangiello. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have Underhill Farm. This is also a decision statement, 370 Underhill Avenue. We've been back and forth with this.
Right.
I think we're in a good place. I did get word from the historical board.
Okay.
They have everything in order, so how would we would just,
They need to submit it to the department, and I think you would need to see it as well, but,
Okay.
and then we'd have to talk with the owner and applicant about what those changes might be. I have no idea at this
Yeah.
point. It is your approval
yep,
alone, and I think this is part of the original approving resolution, so any of the amendments, it really has nothing,
It's not
no
part of this.
bearing on.
okay.
Right, not part of this.
It's not part of this amendment, no.
Okay.
You have anything you want to add?
No.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we were asked to provide a cross-section. John wanted a cross-section through the change we made for Building 11 and the townhouses where we moved that. So the landscape architect did a cross-section. Can you zoom on that?
I think it's a good change.
So your wall closest, or I should say, on the western side of the cul-de-sac is about 6 or 8 feet high? All right?
It looks about that. Does that sound about right? 8 at the highest.
8 is the highest? Okay. Thanks, appreciate it.
And it'll be the same wall as further down behind the townhouses.
Concerns?
No.
Anybody from the board?
Nothing, yeah.
No concerns.
Anything on your end, John?
No further issues here.
Counselor?
Nothing.
All right, then. We have a resolution approving an amended site plan for Underhill Farms. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next we have 380 Downing Drive LLC. This is also a decision statement. Location is the same. Do you wanna
The
sit
last
down and
time
get back up?
You know, last time we had a discussion about sidewalks. I
Has
went
he
back and I
agreed to
spoke,
put them in?
yeah, I went back and spoke to my client, and he is proposing to install new sidewalks and curb from, I'm not sure the name of the bookstore there,
Libri?
from there, down around the bend, down Veterans, down around the bend, to just keep going a little bit more, oh, too much, right to, keep going back, to right there.
To the full curve?
Yeah, right after the curve. So we'd be replacing the sidewalk with a 6-foot sidewalk, it's 5 now, and a new curb.
And in the curb, there's the ADA access there?
Correct.
Okay.
And he'll be
Does it
install-
end at the corner sewer? Because there's like a sewer area.
Yeah, you could see the shaded area where it ends, okay? And he's continuing into the site there. People coming from across the street have cut through there, so we just gonna put a paved area in there.
Yeah.
Is that drawing different than the one we got in our materials?
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's the last revision on that?
To find it. It doesn't show the full shading that he's got in there now.
217? Is that what you have?
No, I have an older one.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so we'll have to get
So
anything
there's the
updated.
resolution, well, I can see it up there, I just wanna make sure it reflects the,
Yeah.
you've got the February 17th drawings recited in the resolution, so that's good,
So we're covered.
okay.
Anything else from the board at this time?
Nothing here.
John?
Nothing here, no.
Counselor?
Nothing.
All right, we have in front of us a resolution approving an amended site plan for 380 Downing Drive LLC. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, we're gonna move into the work
Thank you.
session. Thanks, John.
Nice to see you, Joe.
I'll be back.
Okay, see you soon.
Joe, you had the whole regular session. So, in the work session, first on the agenda is a ZBA referral, 45/25. This is the Yorktown Community Nursery School, location 247 Veterans Road. How are you again?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So last we met, you said you were going to do a visit to the school to give recommendations on.
We were gonna do individual
Yeah, site visit.
site
Site
visits,
visit.
not as a group, yes.
Yeah.
So the only question I have so far is, again, going back to the parking in front of the building. I understand what you said last time, but I'm looking at the plan that was submitted, and I'm not sure I see on that plan a more adequate description or drawing of where the parking situation is. Did you submit something that updates that?
I didn't, no.
Okay, because what I see here is looks to me like there's a boundary line. Your lot line boundary on Veterans Road is right next to the wall and the fence that's there. And when you told us the other time that there was a special parking arrangement you have, and we asked you to show that, I don't see that on here.
Okay. Yeah, so, I don't have an answer for that, I guess. You know, we have that, you know, the wall, like I had said, the ground used to go all the way out to the road, and then we recessed it back to build that wall. And that's where people come in to park in front of the school.
Yes, but is that your property or is that on the town right away?
Yeah, so I believe it's our property. It doesn't get plowed by the town. It doesn't get paved by the town. We plow it. We pay for plowing for that section, that area of parking.
So, if you look at the deed, generally, so that's on public property. It's a right of way.
Looks
However,
like it.
It is. Sometimes the deed will refer to the center line of the road, and it depends on how the original plat was filed. However, I think what happened back in the day was there was an agreement with someone at the town level where they cleared that area out,
And they maintained it.
right, created parking for the school, and it's probably been like that
Yes.
sometime. So, it's not their property in theory. And there's an agreement. I don't know if there's a license agreement or anything of the sort.
I don't know that there's a license agreement, but I guess the suggestion would be that there is a license agreement created, if there is not one already.
I think that would be the best path forward, because if you're already maintaining it, I think that would be appropriate, and then you could put signage up.
Put signage
otherwise.
up, and you
Right.
could stripe it appropriately if needed, do things such as that.
I think that would be the best path forward for your school.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would solve the problem we're talking about to
Right.
make sure we have the proper drop-off place for the
Yes.
kids, you know? So I think that needs to be worked on.
If they touch it, do we have to change it for ADA? Because there's no ramps or anything on that side?
Any improvements would have to be compliant. If you
Um,
pave the
so-
road, if you do sidewalks, or there's a
Right.
reapproval, you'd have to be in compliance.
The driveway to the right
To the right,
is
that's what I was
ADA.
Yeah. I
we
remember when you had a
had
kid
that-
there. Yep.
Yep, we had that done so that you can enter from there right up into the
To the top
pathway.
floor.
And go right into the back of the school where we have the ramps for entrance.
So that would come out and where people sometimes park.
What?
Sometimes along the right of way, they'll park in front of where that driveway is.
They're not. Yeah.
They're not
I mean,
supposed to,
they're not
but
supposed to. And
they
it's
think
not
it's all the
necessarily
same.
people from the school that park there,
Correct.
because I park usually in the driveway. But I don't park in the driveway when we have assemblies or anything where outside family or anybody that might need the ramp, uses the ramp. But
Well, that's where if you get the license
That's
agreements
where-
with the
okay.
town, then
They
you can
won't
put
be
up
touching-
We
signage.
do a
Right.
referral back to the town or a recommendation that this be accomplished.
I think that's the way we would go about it.
Yeah.
Unless you think
While you're at
otherwise.
it, throw in a sign with some lights on it so that it's very visible going both ways.
On that spot.
Yeah.
Even at the bottom of that driveway, in case someone is coming down with a wheelchair or something.
No, I just mean because people cross that street with small children a lot, especially people that come from like the Evergreen side of town. And it would be really useful to have flashing lights on a sign to clearly delineate that people will be.
For going so fast and whatnot. And then because of that, because if you notice where your driveway is, it's almost like comes out of a parking spot and then it's like hidden.
Yeah.
So it might be good to even what you're saying is just to have the sign saying this is property of the nursery.
okay.
And we should let the zoning board know what we're doing.
Yeah, can you draft the
Yes.
memo?
Mhm.
All right, so
Okay.
we're gonna put all this into a memo and get it back to the ZBA.
Okay, great.
Do you want anything from the applicant? Because you have a meeting next week before the next ZBA meeting.
Well, if
there's
you can come back and report on your progress with the parking and showing us how it's going to be delineated, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
I think it'd be best, and we always tell the applicants to maybe get planning, in this case, the engineers. and
Okay.
Maybe Dave Paganelli on this one. Just so everybody's there, so when you come
Right.
out of there, you know exactly what you gotta do.
Okay,
No
great.
surprises.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
MJM.
Okay, next we have MJM subdivision. This is a discussion of site plan, locations 3232 Gomer Street.
Back again. So we're mainly here to speak about the mitigation, the tree mitigation. I think that was kind of the one open issue we had before we got to preliminary resolution. And Sarah is here from Tim Miller Associates, and she's going to, she's been talking with Robin about our proposal, and she's going to explain what we're planning to do.
So when we were calculating our tree repayments, I spoke with Robin about how we should go about with the payments here. So we decided to split it up into 3 separate categories. We did the trees removed off of the road off of Gomer Street, the road off of Cordial Road, and then all the lots combined. So the main idea with that is that the developer would pay for the tree bank fund with just the roads. And then when the people go to purchase the lots, we'll just divide the lot amount between all of the other people. So you can see over here the main total would be $30,590. But the road off of Gomer Street would just be $1,544. The road off of Cordial would be $4,386, and the developer would pay that amount. So then, yeah, the 30,000, yeah.
John, do we know how much is in the tree bank right now?
I don't know the exact number. I think it's over $100,000. Might be approaching 200.
Has anything been used yet?
Some, but in small amounts.
So, let's say with this project, there's a certain bank of money there.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, one of the residents comes in and says, they'd like to see a little bit more. Can they use some of the other funds in there to offset another development?
I'm not sure I know what you're
If
getting
you have a
at.
tree bank and we're gonna be putting stuff in, they're gonna put something in. Could any of this be used to offset that?
Any of the money that
Yeah,
is
right.
be used to offset
Any further mitigation?
on this
Yes,
project? Well, no, I mean, this is an offset.
right,
The payment is an offset.
right.
So it
That-
can't, I don't
it
think it can
goes-
be used again
It
to
won't.
offset another mitigation somewhere.
But I think what you're getting at is, can this be used on other properties?
On other properties.
So I've had some discussions with Keith, the chair of the Tree Conservation Committee, and he's told me that they are using some town money. They have put together areas where trees are being grown or stock is being made available for use to put in other areas of the town. And not necessarily this project, but other areas or for use on municipal property to enhance the forest and the trees and things of that sort. So they're getting something like that going. And he can address it better than I can, but I understand, and maybe you can say that money's been spent,
It has been.
right? Okay.
My question to this one, in what you're talking about, the money being spent, from what I heard, you said that the off of Cordial and off of Gomer, the developer will pay,
Yeah.
and then the individual lots, he'll pass it to the homeowners.
Yeah, and at
So
that
my
point,
question is, why wouldn't he just pay it all up front and then collect it back from him? Like, why does the town have to wait to get paid to the tree bank?
yeah, that can certainly be an option. I think it was because we wanted to see if the homeowners themselves wanted to do some sort of other mitigation at that point and kind of leave it up to them.
Right, and most likely, the developer's gonna be building all the lots. I mean, again, because there's no definitive plan for each lot.
That's why
at
they're
this
leaving it.
point,
Okay.
It kinda leaves open the possibility of coming back and saying, well, we're gonna create a buffer, tree buffer on our lot or whatever, and offset that. And then so they'll be working off that amount that's kind of preset, right? So they'll know it's at, come back
Okay.
if they wish. And again, this project is gonna be a long-term project as far as how long it's gonna take to build it out. And, why pay it all up front when he could pay it as he goes along? That's kind of the.
Joe,
we're
what,
thinking.
what, in the event that he don't build all the houses, he's stuck for the money he
Well,
put
that's
in.
the other thing. If he, for some reason, he doesn't build the houses, then he's already paid that money up front.
Yeah, so you don't wanna do that. Can't blame him.
So I have one other question. There's a memo from February 3rd from the Tree Commission, which raises some questions about maintenance and monitoring of the plantings and things of that sort, and there's some substituted species that's suggested. Have you been able to address that memo?
If he doesn't build the lots, the trees will stay.
Yeah. Sure.
So we updated the first two comments about labeling walnut as black walnut, and then we agree with the substitutions, and we'll clarify the maintenance and monitoring schedule at a later date.
Okay, so you'll do that. Thank you. Let's
Any other
move-
concerns from the board?
Moving along, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where
Any
are we
thoughts?
at on this?
Well, I think it means that each lot is going to have its an individual environmental permit, tree removal, and if there's wetlands to go along with it. So I think you have to bring each lot back to make sure that the mitigation is appropriate.
Limited and full site plan. So right now it's a limited, and as we discussed earlier on, so not to hold things up, then they'd come back for a full site plan on that lot. Just like we've done on other subdivisions.
Yeah, we've got some tonight.
And if it's decided to just pay the fund, then there's no reason to come back, right, at that point.
Well, how do you
Well,
allocate?
what's-
The mitigation's in place.
So you're saying that each lot would have the same
Yeah.
payment?
That would be due at the time of building permit, let's say.
Regardless of whether or not they have the same impact?
Regardless. That was the only way because we had discussed finding areas of mitigation in the buffer areas and whatnot, and allocate these areas, and it was getting complicated on our end on how to accomplish that. Now you're creating easements, let's say, on someone else's lot, and you're gonna have, um, a landscape crew or whoever going through that lot to go plant trees or do mitigation, it was just getting messy. So we're just trying to keep it kind of clean, where we just said, okay, this is what it is. And the developer also is leaving open the option of just paying it all up front. I mean, he may do that too.
If I recall correctly, and we had a few people here that were concerned about the mitigation, that we wanted to leave it open so they could come back and look at each lot. I think that's what I
That's
remember.
the best way to do it? From our
I just
point of
think
view.
it's easier on this end to get it going. And then as they sell lots, because you don't know what's gonna happen around turn number two.
I know, there may be a couple of lots that aren't built or.
You've delineated the limits of disturbance and the likely areas of disturbance and
Yes.
construction. And
Yes.
therefore you know on each individual lot what trees will be removed most likely.
roughly.
Yes.
But that may not stay the same. So the area of disturbance may get larger, for instance, and more trees be removed on a particular lot, given whatever individual desires that the buyer has. So I think that kind of thing sort of makes you need to come back to see that the disturbance and the tree removal is roughly the same as they will be approving a mitigation plan for.
My concern is, I don't want it to become a prolonged process every time coming back.
I don't think it will, and I think we talked about,
That's the thing I'm
because
worried about.
anybody who comes in, let's say Aaron wants to buy one of the lots. He wants to put a pool, he wants to put something else in there. It's gonna change. I think you wanna leave open that option, make it easier on this end, and then, just like you would with any other, come in. I don't think it's a difficult process. You're pretty well, you've got the layout. It's just, you know, you wanna everybody's gonna wanna fine tune it. It's gonna happen. And then if you have it set in stone now, just like we discussed earlier, you're gonna have to come back again anyway. This just makes it cleaner, in my opinion. And I don't think it's a long drawn out thing. It's just like we have with some of these others. You come in with the plan, show what you're looking to do, and then move it forward.
Is it fair to say that the reason to sort of parse it out lot by lot is that there's an expectation that this will be somewhat lengthy in terms of the build-out?
Yes, that it's not a 1-year build out, it's gonna be over several years.
2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or?
Probably 2 or 3, John.
Codes
You
are
know,
gonna
it depends on the
change.
market and all that.
Problem
That's
I
all
have,
different.
if a lump sum of money is paid up front, does that then give you, in effect, a blank check to do whatever you want because you've already paid for something, or are you
In a way,
limited?
in a way it does, yeah.
So I'm not sure I like that.
I think the best thing to do is go lot
by
by lot,
Yeah.
and you might save a lot of trees.
Yeah.
Who knows? Some guy might want to put a
Everybody's
smaller
different.
house than a bigger house.
Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
If I could just say something, if you don't mind, my concern is how long is this dragged out process with the lots gonna be? Because
What dragged out process?
if they're going lot by lot, I'm just speaking for
Up to
the.
them.
Yeah, if you guys are going lot by lot, I mean, the neighborhood's gonna be under construction potentially for 10 years.
Aaron, what happens if we look at
I mean, that's a concern for me.
the entire acreage and do it as if they're taking down all the trees? So whether they leave it or not, they pay for them anyway.
Well, I
Yeah.
think they didn't want to
You
do
know what I mean?
that.
Yes,
So if there's a billion trees, then they're gonna pay for a billion.
Like a blank check? I don't-
Yeah, but I'm saying the other way would be if there's gonna be obviously some trees they may leave, or not. I don't know how populated that area is
It's,
in quality of trees, right? Because we've had that, where maybe there's somebody, an arborist can
Right.
actually tell me how many trees are there and have them pay us the blank check even for the trees that may stay.
They're fine with coming back with each lot as we.
I think that's the way to go.
as we move
It's gonna be different. Everyone's gonna be different.
That gives you the flexibility too.
Right.
And I
Because
thought
there might be
that's
people that might
probably
keep all the
save
Save a
trees.
lot of trees too.
Yeah.
So with
Who
that
knows
said,
what they're gonna build?
yeah.
Maybe a
If they're
little
living
smaller,
next
but
to you, they might want a lot of trees.
They might want to get it.
So with that said, at this point then, the contribution would be
Street.
for the 2 roads.
Right.
As far as,
Because you already know what that.
That's gonna be set. You get
And
your
then
layout,
as we-
you get your road
each lot
layout.
will come in.
Once the lines are deviated and they're lot per lot.
I think that's the way to go. Any issues,
No issues.
John?
No issues.
Or what are we missing with this one?
Just a resolution preliminary.
Yeah, we can draft a resolution and find any loose ends that we haven't tied up yet and make sure that
Alright.
they get tied
Yeah,
up.
I just want to, address the other concerns in that memo, if we need to at this point, because we're changing the way that this is being handled, I think. So, address that as part of your final proposal.
I think it'll work better for
Yeah.
the owner. I really do. Every homeowner is gonna be a little bit different.
Okay. They're good with that.
Okay,
All right, good.
all right.
So we can maybe have that for the next meeting, you think?
Next week, it's up to them whether,
Not next week, I mean,
or,
the 23rd.
okay.
You don't want to come back next week?
Yeah. Might get yelled at for that.
So I'll put the 23rd down on that one.
Yeah. All right,
Okay, good.
we're not gonna hear the next,
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna have to recluse myself, and I have a letter of reclusal.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Lascal is gonna accuse himself because he is the owner of the property. You're on.
They're on, okay.
This is the Lascala discussion of site plan, location is 3270 Gomer Street.
Allison Marino from my office is gonna present this application.
Hi, Alice.
Hi.
So for this lot, we have an original subdivision and plat approved in 1979. So we're proposing a single-family home in accordance with that approved plat. It's zoned R120, and so we're within all the setbacks. It's a single-family lot with a driveway. We have stormwater up front for the new impervious. And then it's on town water and sewer. So overall, it's pretty basic proposal.
It's high and dry, right?
One
There's
house,
nothing on here.
One house, one lot.
Yeah.
Anything in particular we gotta look at here?
I don't think so. I don't know if we've found a file on this. Did we have a file on? We do or we don't, or we didn't check, or?
The sewer in the back.
The sewer is in the back of the house, yeah, and it connects through the adjoining property. And then there's also, we have a tree survey for the lot.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we're taking out 7 trees total, and 2 of them are already dead.
So those took themselves out.
It's got a rain garden and in the front. I don't see any issues here.
Any concerns, John?
So you're talking about it, just really an excavation permit?
Yeah.
That's it? No, I don't have any concerns.
Counselor?
No issues.
All right, so we'll move forward then.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like there's a passing of the torch.
Oh, we
tonight.
got MS4.
I know it's very important to watch that.
There's a tree. They got a
She
tree
better be better with
permit
the
applied for.
IT stuff.
Any dirty flushing toilets?
I don't think it needs one, if they're only taking 7 trees.
Okay,
And 2 already gone.
so it's just the MS4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, 4-6.
You got everything in order by then?
You didn't go that far? He's back.
The new member was giving you a hard time. All right, next we have a town board referral. This is Homeland Towers LLC, Granite Springs Road.
Okay, Will.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
My show. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Robert Gaudioso with the law firm of Snyder and Snyder on behalf of Homeland Towers. I know you've seen this a few different times going back a number of years, and this project has been, before the town of Yorktown for 4 or 5 years. It's been worked on even longer than that. The area's been in need, and we've been looking at it for over 10 years. So I want to just take an opportunity tonight, because we did submit a large pile of documents in response to a lot of comments that we've received. I want to take a couple minutes tonight to go through what we submitted to you. And then I'd like to ask Joe to go through his letter, which covers the changes to the plan and responses to some comments. And then Vincent Xavier from Homeland Towers, he submitted a letter with a PowerPoint. I'd like him to walk through it, because I think that's really important to put everything in context about where we've been, why we're at where we're at, and also to, I think, overall respond to a lot of the comments that we've received, clear up some misinformation that I think has been out there, and just tell you what we've done and where we are at in the process. So this is a piece of property that was originally taken by the town, and it had a deed restriction as parkland. The town board did make the home rule request, and the state legislature did pass the parkland alienation. So the property's not parkland. And the property address is 62 Granite Springs Road. And when we started the project about 4 years ago, it had a different address. The town actually issued that address, that 62 Granite Springs Road address. And we've been using that on all of our materials, and all the public notices have included that address. So that is the correct address in case there's any mistake. The reason why we're at this site is because Section 300-59D1 expressly requires that telecommunications facilities shall be on town-owned lands or facilities, and that's very important. And the carriers, whether it's Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile, have a long history of going on town properties. Homeland Towers has worked with the town on at least 2 other locations where we're on town property. One is Quinlan Street, and you'll hear about that a little bit later. And recently, another site that was similar to this on Hill Boulevard, which was parkland, was alienated, did have wetlands, did have wetland impacts, did require wetland permits. It even required a DEC permit in that case. So those towers, there's been a long history of cooperation of putting these facilities on municipal property as the code requires. And as part of that process, technically the special permit criteria of Section 300-59 does not apply, and the code expressly says that. What does apply is that the applicant needs a lease from the town board, and if there are any environmental requirements. So in this particular case, as in other cases, we need a wetland permit because the facility access drive is in the buffer. Joe will talk a little bit about that. We need a tree removal permit because, like many of the applications that come before you, require tree removal. And we also need a stormwater management permit. Again, not uncommon for developments that are above a certain size. So those are the approvals that we're requesting from the town board: the lease, the stormwater permit, the tree removal permit, and the wetland permit, because it's in a town wetland buffer. At least the access drive partially is. Vincent at the end is going to go through his PowerPoint. We'll use the screen, and he'll go through with you, the surrounding land uses, some of the propagation map information, the viewshed map that we did back in 2022, why we believe this site is still the least intrusive. He'll talk about the report that Cityscape prepared, and just to put that into context, we are not Cityscape. This site was came out of Verizon Wireless having a need in the area, and Homeland Towers has an agreement with Verizon Wireless to find sites. And as we were looking for sites in this area, simultaneously, the county hired a company called Cityscape, and they prepared a report on behalf of the county for the northern towns of the county. And what that report did is it did a couple different things. It inventoried all the sites throughout the northern part of the county. And through their own methodology, they prepared coverage maps with the inventory of sites to show where there was a need, and lo and behold, they found a particular need in this area. They didn't do a deep dive on how to solve that need, and they made some recommendations, and one recommendation was 6 what they call small cell sites, and we'll talk about that in a little while. What is a small cell site? Under federal law, it's 50 feet in height, and it's a certain amount of equipment, very limited, and it covers a small area. And what Cityscape said was that, you know, possibly you could do 6 of these in the area. And Vincent's going to go through why we believe that's not a better alternative. In fact, the town, with respect to this application, has hired its own expert, Mr. Fishman. We saw his original report. I saw late today a supplemental report where he agreed with that the small cell idea is not feasible. But we're going to show you why, at least we believe it's not. And then finally, the Cityscape report also did a good job of doing a poll. They did an inventory. They asked people specifically throughout the town, and there were over 900 responses. And one of the things that's important, like any controversial application, you will hear people that are against the application. It's common with cell phone towers. But when you look at the Cityscape report and the information they specifically obtained from the residents, over and over again at a high percentage, people talked about the need for better wireless coverage, the need for a facility in the Granite Springs area, and the preference for one tower over multiple sites. And Vincent will go through some of those statistics. So since the last time you saw us, we submitted a radio frequency justification report responding to Mr. Fishman. That's from our consultant, VCOM, who's a third-party consultant. They worked with Verizon. Verizon produced the coverage maps and provided the data, and they showed, again, that there's a gap in this area. They showed that the minimum height is 130 feet to be able to support Verizon and co-location, so you don't have a proliferation of towers. And they provided capacity data. And what's very important, and Vincent will show it on the map, is the site on town property to the west on Quinlan Street is in a very dense residential area. It's also, when something's in a dense residential area, that means there's a lot of users in the area. So that site was very important. The town board approved that site. That site is right smack in the residential neighborhood. It's on the water treatment plant. That site allowed for the co-location of all of the carriers. It also supports the fire district that Homeland Tower paid to have on that tower, and the radio club. And on this site, the proposal is very similar. It's to support all the carriers. It's to support the volunteer, provide additional service for the volunteer ambulance corps, who's come out and talked about their need. It's to support the equipment for the fire department, which they've come out and talked about their need. And it's to provide funds in the lease for the equipment for the fire department on the tower, plus free space on the tower. So the RF justification report went through all the coverage maps, all the capacity data. It showed that this site covers Yorktown. This site's intended to cover Yorktown. That there are sites actually in Somers that cover into Yorktown. That those sites are, those sites are irrespective of the site here. And there's a need in Yorktown for this site. And Mr. Fishman, I think, agrees with the VCOM report in his most recent report and his analysis. We submitted a revised environmental assessment form. There were a number of comments. I suspect that if you understand how SECRA works, it's a reasonableness standard. We submitted the EAF. We've made a few tweaks to it to clarify things that were already in there. Much of the EAF comes from the EAF Mapper, which is a digital program from the state, from the DEC. Plus, then we filled in additional information, and we supplemented comments where there were comments from the public. But there were no substantive changes to the EAF in that regard. We submitted a letter from EBI, who's our environmental consultant, who's prepared all of our environmental reports, and they clarified a couple different things. There was a comment that Stewart Farm was listed as a historic resource. It is not a historic resource. It was listed as a historic business that has nothing to do with SECRA. It has nothing to do with environmental resources. In fact, it is a business. And in fact, according to published data, as of a few years ago, they attract 25,000 people a year to the farm. There's a bakery there. There's apple picking. There's all different types of commercial uses there. And if you drive up and down Granite Springs Road in the fall, in particular in September and October, you know how many people are in the area. And that is also driving the capacity need in the area, is that farm. So We confirmed it is not a historic resource. We also confirmed that SHPO concurred that there's no adverse effect on historic or archaeological resources. That's all in the record. That's directly from the State Historic Preservation Office, and that has been confirmed. We also had our engineers confirm that there is not likely to be any adverse effect on listed endangered or threatened species. That is the criteria under SECRA. There is no evidence of protected bats or bog turtles. Nevertheless, out of an abundance of caution, we've agreed to implement construction and clearing in the time frame when there is not likely to be any species related to bats and turtles, and that would be from October 1st to March 31st. Also out of an abundance of caution, Homeland Towers agreed that even though there's no species survey or additional mitigation measures required by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Homeland Towers committed to implementing a pre-construction environmental survey and avoidance measures at the site prior to construction. So we will go out there with a biologist before any construction takes place and make sure there's no adverse impact on species that are endangered or threatened. We submitted a signed and sealed letter from Dave Winepaul, our professional engineer, which confirms the tower design and loading to support the full co-location of the carriers and the town's emergency service equipment, and that the tower will be structurally designed to meet all applicable New York State building codes for structural analyses. I think there was one comment about how the tower could fall on a house. That is just simply not possible. Not only being designed structurally capable, it is hundreds and hundreds of feet from the closest property line, over 400 feet, in fact. As part of a building permit process, as is routinely done on every single site, we would perform analysis of the ground. We design the foundation based on those soil samples. We provide a foundation drawing and a construction drawings to the building department. We cannot do that yet because, number one, we don't have a lease with the town. Number two, we'd have to get a rig up there, so we'd have to start removing trees, and we'd start have to impacting the property to get a rig up there because it's set back, well over 400 feet, 550 feet actually from the street. So that's usually typically a condition of a building permit to do the full structural, but we did submit the letter confirming the criteria. We submitted reports from Pinnacle Telecom Group in response again to Mr. Fishman, again confirming that the facility will comply with the FCC required exposure limits for radio frequency exposure. It's approximately less than 13% of the overall limitation, including all the carriers, all the worst case scenario, the methodology required by the FCC, worst case scenario calculations, and that was in response to Mr. Fishman, and again, he concurred with the conclusions. We submitted a letter from Mr. Vicente, who's the president of Homeland Towers. He confirmed that, again, that the Yorktown VAC and the fire department operate on 2 Homeland Tower facilities free of rent. That's a savings of over $100,000 a year to the town. Moreover, Homeland Towers has spent over $128,000 purchasing and installing equipment for the VAC and the fire department, and also completing a renovation of the Radio Club's equipment shelter up at Quinlan Street. And here again, the lease has built into it a provision for $25,000 in revenue to the town as a payment to buy equipment for the fire department to install its equipment. We submitted a property value report by Lane Appraisals. That report covers over 12 years of studies, 19 different properties and 15 different study areas. It looked at voluminous amounts of actual data to determine whether the visibility of a cell tower in an area versus the non-visibility of a cell tower in an area has any impact on property values. And the conclusion was that there would be no diminution in property values from this facility based on that voluminous data. Lane Appraisals is a MAI certified appraiser. Their reports have been upheld in many different cases that have been brought on the issue of property values. We submitted a letter from our engineers, KSCJ, and we have Joe with us tonight responding to the public comments and the CAC comments. I'd like to give the microphone over to Joe for a moment, let him walk through the letter, hit on the high points of confirming some of the information that might have been stated that wasn't actually correct, and confirming some of the things that we've revised on the site plan since the last time you saw this. Joe?
Good evening, everybody. Since you've last seen the plan, not much has changed. There's been some, as Rob mentioned, some minor edits to the drawings, just to clarify a few things. One of which was a housekeeping item on our end. When we first started this application, we had some plantings proposed on the adjacent town parcel to the west. We had since removed those from that property, so we simply removed that tax parcel ID from our drawing set. The biggest change, if any, is related to the compound area specifically. Prior plans simply showed in the fenced compound area, 50 by 60 feet in size. That hasn't changed. What we did do was add the Verizon components within that compound area. So the plan now shows the equipment shed and their lease area. The shed itself is approximately 27 by 15 feet in size. You can see that in that upper right corner of the compound area. And then we've added the lower right. And then we added a concrete pad for the 500-gallon propane tank that would supply the fuel for the 50 kW emergency generator. So we've updated the plans to show those various components. Again, no change in size to the compound area. The rest of the plan, as you see it, is exactly as we presented it last time. Still a 10-foot wide gravel driveway. We shifted it as far west as we could, away from the adjoining residential lot without impacting the wetland proper. We are obviously, as we've said before, disturbing wetland buffer area, but no wetland proper whatsoever. We're also, let's see, there was a question related to details of the antenna array and how that sits on the tower. I think it might be the next sheet. There you go. So we've modified this plan to show the antenna array. If you look at the elevation on the left, the uppermost antenna array is for Verizon. That's the center point of that array is at 126 feet. That way we can maintain the maximum height of 130 feet above, which is also shown on that elevation. And then to the right, we added the details of the various components of the antenna system. I'm not versed in any of that, but I'm sure you either. But we've gotten that directly from Homeland and added that to the plan as requested. Some questions and clarifications. The question of the wetland delineation and verification came up again as it seems to always come up. But again, as we've stated, our office, my partner, is a wetland professional. He delineated the wetland in 2021. That was verified by the DEC and then subsequently verified by the town's wetland consultant, all coming up with the line as you see on the plan today. Although the delineations were done in colder months, soil conditions don't change seasonally. So, the ground wasn't frozen. We were able to, your consultant was able to do soil probing, verify the soil conditions. Wetland professionals are trained in identifying vegetation with or without the leaves. So, and the hydraulic conditions were readily determinable. So we stand by the line. It's been verified. I don't even know that we need to discuss that any further. There was a question regarding snow removal. As I said, the driveway is only 10 feet wide. The compound area, as you see, is plenty big enough to get a vehicle. We're talking about maybe a pickup truck with a plow in the front of it. Certainly nothing you would see in these last few weeks with the town and their equipment. It's a small truck, a plow. They could easily navigate that drive to the top of the compound area, clear whatever snow is needed. We're far enough away from any adjacent properties. The limited amount of snow that needs to come off the road, there's ample space on either side of the drive going up to the compound area to deposit that snow, clear a path, and then certainly when you get to the compound area, there's more than enough room to do the same. So we see no issue in snow removal. We've got plenty of room for snow storage. We don't intend to treat the road or the compound area with salt or sand or anything like that. It's a gravel surface. It's inherently got traction suitable to provide access to the compound area. And I believe the final question and comment was related to the floodplain. The property itself, no portion of it is within the mapped FEMA floodplain. There is a FEMA floodplain. It's a Zone A on the adjacent wetland property to the west, but those boundaries do not extend onto our property. It's not to say that, you know, it's been reported that the road floods or there's standing water. We're not denying that that could happen, but we are not in a floodplain whatsoever. We're not filling in a floodplain. We're not impacting a regulated floodplain. And our compound sits 23 feet above Granite Springs Road, probably close to 30 feet above the adjacent wetland area. So, you know, the tower in and of itself is not in, nor will it will affect the floodplain. And we're providing a stormwater mitigation system required by your town code to mitigate any negligible impacts from the gravel compound in the road, to mitigate any increases that may result from stormwater.
Next, I'd like to ask Vincent to come up and run through the slides that he has. You have them in your package
Yes.
attached to his letter. It was the first document we submitted, but we'll put them up on the screen and have Vincent walk through that if that's okay with you. Thank you.
So good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Xavier, and I represent Homeland Towers. You know, as this application has progressed, we've received many questions and comments from the different boards here in town and from members of the public. And through all of that, I'm sorry, we review all the comments we received, the opposition's websites, and the petitions online, and nothing that is asked of us is ever disregarded. After reviewing everything, it has become clear that there is a lot of misinformation and misunderstandings related to the process and the site plan itself. Tonight, I want to provide additional information and clarity to help clear up any confusion. When the town board makes its decision as to whether the area around the proposed site will have reliable wireless service, it is important to have the decision based on facts. We understand that the board may need additional information and studies to be completed prior to rendering its decision, and Homeland Towers is ready to facilitate those future studies as well. So the first question that comes up is, who designs the wireless network? There have been comments that since Homeland Towers builds towers, we of course only are willing to build a tower. Is the idea that a carpenter with a hammer, everything looks like a nail to him. But that's not the case. Homeland Towers does not choose if a site is needed or the type of technology needed to remedy a gap in service. The carriers do, in this case Verizon. If there was an existing tower in the area, Homeland Towers would not be involved at all. The carriers would have a different team focusing on co-locations on that structure. If there was another type of existing tall structure, such as a rooftop, then Verizon would have a different team handle securing a lease for that source. Homeland Towers is only involved when new infrastructure is determined to be needed by the carriers. Even when we are engaged, the first thing we do is re-verify that there is no existing structures that are available for co-location. Furthermore, this is not a field of dreams scenario where we build the tower and then market to the carriers hoping to get a tenant. We do not build a tower unless we already have a lease with the carrier. And this approach is consistent with the town code, as Mr. Gaudioso referenced before. The town code sets a hierarchy for the preference of siting a facility. Other than co-location on existing structures, the use of town land is preferred above any other property. And moreover, under the code, the idea of siting a facility in a residential area is contemplated and permitted by the code. So the site will provide service to portions of Yorktown and Somers. There are currently 8 Verizon sites that are providing some coverage to this area of Yorktown. 3 of those sites are in Somers and providing coverage back to Yorktown. Those sites are shown on this map with the red E's. All of those are existing sites. The 3 sites on the right in Somers are Yorktown Heights, Lincolndale, and Amawalk. All 3 of these Somers sites are currently providing coverage to portions in Yorktown. For more specific details on this, I would refer you to the best server map on page 8 of the RF coverage and analysis report prepared by VCOM dated February 24th, which was recently submitted as part of this package. The Mohansick 2 site that Mr. Gaudioso was referring to before that we built on King Lawn is a 130-foot tower on town property that's currently about 170 feet from the nearest home. The Mohansick 2 Alpha sector provides a majority of the low-band coverage into the area around the proposed site currently. Page 14 of that same VCOM report provides data directly from Verizon which shows the blocked call rate from this site. This means that the site is overloaded and has capacity issues which prevent connections from being made even if your phone appears to have cell phone service, a signal. There's just too many devices connecting to the antennas in the sector that is pointing to the current area of need. And again, I can go through it, but the VCON report really has more details on that, shows the mapping, and I would encourage everybody to review that report. Homeland Towers has built sites in both towns. The location for a site is driven by the need and available property, not by the laws of individual jurisdictions. We don't go shopping for where the easiest place to put a tower is. It's based on the need and where the available properties are that will fulfill that need with the infrastructure. The proposed site is identified with a blue marker. As you can see, the proposed site is centrally located to the area that is intended to be covered, which includes portions of Somers and Yorktown. To state that this site will not provide coverage to Yorktown is wrong. The coverage maps provided within the VCOM report at pages 9 through 12 were created directly by Verizon's radio frequency engineers and depict coverage at both 700 and 2100 megahertz band of coverage, showing existing and proposed for both. Again, I encourage people to look at that report. So let's take a closer look at this map from the county GIS system, which identifies current existing land uses with the the proposed site identified with a purple arrow. I live in this area, and the need for reliable service was made clear to me when I drive through and when I visit Stewart Farms with my children. When we first investigated this area beginning 10 years ago in 2016, the first thing we did was investigate the non-residentially zoned areas in Yorktown and Somers. There are not many commercial properties in this area. The largest properties are Jilco and Stewart's Farm. I attempted to develop a design to utilize the Jilco property, but the property was not made available to lease. Stewart, which is identified as number 2 on the map. Stewart's Farm has a deed restriction on the property preventing its use. The nearest commercial property in Yorktown is a small deli with limited space and is too far to the west, and that's identified as number 1 on the map above. Since no commercially zoned properties were available, we began exploring for town land. We have been working with the town on projects for 10 years and through 4 administrations. This map depicts just some of the properties that Homeland reviewed. All of the town properties besides the proposed site were either wetlands, had other constructability issues such as steep slopes, or would have been in even more densely populated developed areas. The properties up there are numbered 1 through 5, showing the largest properties that we did investigate. Number 1 is a wetland area east of Sparkle Lake, has an existing pump house on it, steep slopes. The pump house has underground infrastructure, and it's closer in proximity to homes. Number 2 is a property that's just north of Sparkle Lake, has an existing playground on the site, it's closer to residences and Sparkle Lake itself. Property 3 is Sparkle Lake. There's an existing playground. Again, you'd be closer to residences, and it would be much more visible from Sparkle Lake. Property 4 is the Gomer Wetlands. There's multiple properties associated with that. You got the wetlands on the right portion of it. On the left, it's all steep slopes. There was no place to put it, and again, you'd be closer to homes. And then property 5 is the Halleck Mills wetland. It's obviously a large wetland area that encompasses most of that entire lot. So let's look more at the actual lot that we're talking about, which is identified here. It's important to point out that this lot is separate and distinct from the wetlands lot. This is not on the same property as the wetlands, let alone the fact that the wetlands are not on this property at all. It is a large wooded lot which allows for natural screening and limited direct visibility of the proposed facility. Due to its location adjacent to the farm and the large wetland parcel, there's a limited number of homes directly to the south. This property is the only one that is not in a densely developed residential area with natural screening. There is no other property that affords this type of distance from a large quantity of homes, has natural screening to prevent direct visibility of most of the tower from most places. It is a unique property, and in our opinion, the least intrusive site to put this. When it comes to visibility, we submitted a report from Saratoga Associates, which included this viewshed map and some photo simulations. This viewshed map is intended to depict, while taking into account existing vegetation and structures, areas where direct visibility of at least a portion of the tower may be possible. And those areas are identified with the blue coloring. As you can see, the visibility for this site is very limited because of its location, and the natural screening. So what are the benefits to using town property? Well, for one, it's consistent with the code. For two, it's about control. Most of my deals are actually with municipalities, and having the control aspect is the best part of it. Under federal law, a tower on private property could be extended under what's called an eligible facilities request. In this instance, since the town becomes the landlord, the height of the tower is limited by the lease itself. So the town can control any future extensions to this tower when it would not be able to on any other private property. It only has that power as the landlord on town land. On private property, if this is proposed, it would be subject to the federal law allowing for extension under EFR. Obviously, the town will get revenue from the source and for use of the tower for its emergency services, which Mr. Gaudioso also already outlined the savings that Homeland Towers has brought to your public safety entities for the other sites we've built. It's tens of thousands of dollars a year in opportunity. Should have brought a water with me. I'm not used to talking this long at these things. All right. All right. So the Cityscape report recommends 10 small cells in northern Yorktown. 6 of those were proposed in the area surrounding the proposed site location. The small cells proposed theorize utilizing existing Con Ed utility poles or new 50-foot poles approximately 2,000 feet apart. None of the existing utility poles in this area are 50 feet, so new poles would be needed. Wireless service providers cannot all mount their equipment at the same height, so you would either need 6 new 50-foot poles per carrier, or you would need new utility poles that are 50, 60, 70 feet high so that each carrier can co-locate on them. So you're either talking 6 poles that are greater than 50 feet or 18 poles throughout this area that are at least 50 feet. Local first responders would not be able to utilize the poles for their network and base station equipment. You wouldn't have backup generator capabilities, and the town's wireless consultant agrees that small cells are not a viable solution in this area. So what is a small cell? Some of the confusion we've gotten is like, what is a small cell? That photo there is the nearest small cell on a utility pole that I can find. It's located in Somers, just east of the Elephant Hotel on Route 116, where it breaks off from Route 202. I would encourage everybody to go look at it. Here's a closer image of it. This is actually a good use of a small cell. It's in a business district with the intent to only cover a limited area. There are only 2 antennas at the top of this. One is pointing southwest along Route 202. The other is pointing eastward to follow Route 116 as it bends away. If we go back real quick, actually, is the next one? In the Cityscape report, which I've cropped out an image of the proposed 6 locations there, you'll see the green is the proposed coverage that those small cells they're theorizing would provide. Even with those 6, you'll still see the blue areas where there wouldn't be coverage. In order to get this coverage around the site, the antennas are not omnidirectional, meaning they don't just broadcast in every direction. Each antenna is line of sight, and that's why in this instance, there's 2 targeting a very specific area. Any small cell that would be theorized here would need at least 3 to 4 in order to provide the coverage that is asked of here. So picture this, 15 feet higher at least, with 4 antennas at the top, with all the wiring and everything associated. And that's more what a small cell would look like in this area. And again, you would need 18 of these in the right-of-way. When we talk about the right-of-way, where are they? So I looked at the Cityscape report, as I said. The image from it is on the right. They do have a list of the coordinates for their proposed locations. When I put those coordinates in, they're wrong. They take you to some place in North Salem. So to the best of my ability, I took the image and then I found those locations on Google Earth and I mapped them out. Those are the red dots on the image to the left. Now I'm going to zoom in on each of those locations to show you where these either 3 50-foot poles or up to 70-foot poles would be in the right-of-way. The first one, I can't even read that from here. So the first one on the left would be along Sheila Court somewhere at the intersection of Poplar Street and Somerston Road. Now, remind you, these would be in the right-of-way. So they would be right in front of people's homes, about 30 feet or so in some instances from their bedroom in that location or somewhere in that approximate vicinity, but in front of people's houses. The second one As you can see, there is along Curry Street at the cul-de-sac at the end of Cordial Road. If you can picture 3 50-foot towers at the end of that cul-de-sac. Similarly, the next one was on Emerson Court along Douglas Drive. You'd have another one or 3 on Windmill Drive. Next would be on Granite Springs Road at the intersection near Dunning Drive. And finally on Granite Springs Road along Colonial Street. So again, Homeland Towers does not design the network, and neither does Cityscape. Only the carriers, in this case Verizon, can do that. If Verizon determined that small cells were the best solution, we'd be here proposing that. Homeland Towers has no problem putting in 50 to 70-foot poles. It'd be a much easier construction than the one I'm proposing. We are here because that was not the technology that is needed to provide service to this area. And your consultant agrees that small cells are not a viable solution. If we looked at this objectively, it'd be hard to see how anyone can state that a small cell regime in this area consisting of 6 to 18 small cell towers in people's front yards, 30 feet from their bedroom windows, would be less intrusive to the community than one taller tower in the woods 400 feet from the nearest house. We know there's opposition to this tower, and unfortunately the people that are in favor of it or who want this don't come to board meetings. But Cityscape did do an analysis and a poll of only Town of Yorktown residents, and they received 933 responses when they did so. There were some poll questions, and then you'll see some just general answers at the end. But in their poll, 67.5% of responders noted poor or inconsistent service where they live, and 55% of responders noted poor or inconsistent service when they travel in town. And that makes sense, because where you live in your house, the signal is attenuated by the structure itself. So you're going to have even more issues inside your home than when you would if you were in a car driving around. But still, the majority of people identify poor and inconsistent service in the Town of Yorktown. Furthermore, the quality of wireless service was important to 98.6% of responders, and excellent connectivity was most important at 69.7% of responders, even when aesthetics was a choice. When people were asked what's more important, 69.7% of responders chose having connectivity over any aesthetic concerns. 47.1% of responders prefer taller facilities, and 28.6% have no preference when compared to multiple shorter towers, which I think is important, especially in this instance. So there were 638 responses to the question, are there specific areas of town where your service is poor? And I won't read through all of these, but when you have on the record people saying that there is no need here, there are members of the community who disagree. They say Granite Springs Road is terrible. Cells are dropped all the time to the point I have to pay to have a home phone. Not having cell phone service costs people money. Besides the public aspect to this, if you wanted to cut the cord and go with just wireless or have the T-Mobile fixed wireless to your home, you can't do that unless you have a cell phone tower with reliable signal. So it's costing at least one person extra money. Granite Springs Road, where I live, Sparkle Lake, Curry Street between Douglas Drive and Granite Springs. I'm not going to read them all, but there is need in the community that people have taken the time to answer a poll just to express. So, in short, a site is needed in this area to cover areas of Yorktown that are currently underserved. This has been confirmed by Verizon, VCOM, Consultant Fishman, Cityscape, the Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Fire Department, and members of the community. After working on this for 10 years, we believe we have found the site that is the least intrusive solution to remedy a gap in service. And we're here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
That, I think, summarizes what we submitted. We'd be happy to answer any questions of any specific materials or any general questions that you may have.
I still have a question about the visibility aspect of it.
Sure.
I don't agree with the conclusion that the antenna at the top would preclude somehow making the tower itself more in line with the one on 35 that at least has some kind of disguise, shall we say.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with the area.
Tom's getting mad at you.
And that certainly is a part of it. I think that's very important. I would also concede that there probably is a need in that area, particularly with the varied elevations around it. But everything that's at all possible should be done to make sure that it is as inconspicuous as possible. Now, obviously, we don't control what the town board does with this, but going back to the parklands, that apparently was deeded to the town at some point, as I understand it,
Sure.
by Noah Wheat's widow about 20 years ago. And he had developed a whole development at the end of Evergreen that has a homeowners association that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere in anything. And I was curious as to how the notices were sent out with regard to that.
Sure. So a couple things. I'll take your questions in order. We showed the alternative tree design in our visual renderings.
Right.
We've offered that as an alternative. I think you're right. It will be up to the town board. If there are whip antennas on top of it, it will look somewhat odd with the municipal service antennas on top. And I think Mr. Fishman, the consultant, pointed that out. And I think he showed a photograph of what that would look like. But we don't really take a position on that. That's ultimately up to the town board. I think there are pros and cons, and I think it's a good point. If that was something the planning board wanted to raise, we would obviously discuss that further with the town board. We agree with you 100% on the need. I think Vincent and the consultants and everyone have gone through that to great extent. As far as the deed, it's my understanding that there was a deed. I don't know the circumstances of that deed, but the town attorney at one of the town board meetings confirmed that the alienation process and the notice provisions were properly complied with. I don't think there technically were notice provisions, but that was handled directly by the town, and I believe the town attorney confirmed that it was properly handled.
Judy, do you remember what the HOA is at the end of Evergreen? Because I thought the closest one there is that one, which is partially defunct, the Walden House one, the Walden off of Curry.
No, all the way up Evergreen from Loader.
Yeah, if I take Loader all the way to the top.
It goes all the way up.
Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah,
I remember what it's called.
yeah.
I didn't know if we still paid into it. That's
But
why
just
I'm asking.
just to be clear though, the alienation process is not a deed restriction that would have to be lifted by.
And that's the state assembly from the look of it.
Well,
It's both the Senate and the Assembly, and ultimately signed by the governor. But so if it was a deed restriction that had to be withdrawn or taken off, then that would have to go through a notice process and probably a law in front of a judge. It would have to go through a declaratory action. This is different. This is the usage. It had a provision for usage as parkland, even though it wasn't being actively used as parkland. In the common sense of, a playground or a ball field or something like that. So therefore, the process was for the town to make a home rule request, the legislator and the senator bring up a bill would be passed by the Senate and the legislature, and ultimately to be signed by the governor, and that's the process that was followed.
Who triggers that process?
The town.
Well, anytime, so the way it's worked, because of the town code that requires that these facilities be on town land, if we're proposing a lease, we lay out for the town in our EAF, which we did in this case, that showed it required parkland alienation. The town board has to pass a notice, which they did, and then it goes up to the legislature. So that's the steps in the process.
Any other comments from the board?
Nothing here.
John, just so we're clear, this is a referral from the town board, so our control over this is.
You have no control.
Mm-hmm.
You're advisory.
Well, we do have a draft memo in our materials
Yes.
that I assume, is going to send back to the town board. Maybe
Yes.
we should just go through that and make sure it covers our concerns, and then as an advisory board.
Yep.
I would do that. All right, this is the one that's dated February 18th. That's in our materials. Of course, we're going to change the date that we met to discuss this. It references, I'll just summarize it.
Please.
It references our concerns with the visual impacts of the tower. I think some of that was addressed this evening in terms of what the tower can actually look like. Maybe it'll blend into the environment a little, surrounding environment a little better. And we're requesting the town board to review those impacts, visual impacts, to make sure that everything that can be done to minimize any adverse impact is done. The other thing that we had in the memo was that it requests the fire commission and other advisory boards comment on the plans if they haven't already done so. And then the last sentence, I'm not sure we need anymore. If there's questions of parkland alienation, is that something that we need to raise at this point?
I don't think so. I think you just described it.
I think you described it. I think they couldn't proceed if it wasn't adequately handled early on.
Sure the case.
Parkland or land that was taken for open space, there's a difference.
So our memo will be submitted as,
I think so. I mean, the only other, there were two other issues that it was an issue of drainage. I'm assuming that was adequately taken care of.
We did submit a SWIP.
addressed.
Yeah, we did submit a SWIP.
And then the last,
Turtles are real over there.
well, they're proposing to have an on-site monitor. Am I right?
Three things. One, we believe we're upland, so there are no turtles.
Okay.
Two, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agrees. Number three, we will not construct during the turtle season, and we'll have the on-site monitor.
Okay. I mean, that to
Say-
me satisfies the concerns.
Judy, they might need the flashing lights too, the turtles.
When you say,
Flashing lights for the turtles too.
when you say U.S. Fish and Wildlife agree, what do you mean exactly?
The U.S. Fish, we submitted a letter from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that concurred that there would not be a likelihood of impact on threatened or endangered species, including the bog turtle, provided we use the construction and tree clearing restriction period, the stormwater management practices regarding stormwater erosion and control, and we also took the extra step to have the biologist, which they didn't ask for, but we proposed that voluntarily.
And you said the biologist you're going to have at the beginning of the construction phase?
Correct.
Okay. And is that limited to threatened and endangered species mitigation?
It's limited to threatened and endangered species mitigation. If obviously there was something else that the biologist flagged, we would obviously take that into account.
Okay. Should the biologist be flagging that beforehand?
So the concept of the biologist is we will have them do a pre-con walk, but most importantly, and obviously if they find something during the pre-con walk, then that would change the plan. They would also be there though during construction, literally the first day, to make sure that,
That's a good idea.
because the season changes.
Yeah, no,
We're on site
that's a
at
good idea.
that point.
What I'm getting at is whether or not having full knowledge of any potential impacts to wildlife, whether it be threatened and endangered or others, that a biologist may flag, wouldn't that knowledge be more advantageous now? And also under the secra process, more appropriate?
Yeah. So, and I'm not a biologist, but I'm trying to explain it the best I can. For example, with the bats roost a certain time of year. They roost in certain types of trees, but they don't roost in every tree. So the idea is that you don't cut down any of the trees, whether you know there are bats there or not, whether you know those are the right type of clingy type bark trees. You don't cut them down at all during the bat roosting season. That's so the biologist doesn't go out there and look for bats. There could be bats here today and not tomorrow. There could be no bats here today and bats tomorrow. So we take the ultra-conservative approach to not cut down the trees during bat season. The idea of having the biologist out there, it's the same thing with the bog turtle. The bog turtle's on the move at certain times of year. If we sent a biologist out there right now, I'm fairly confident they'd come back with a report that they didn't see any bog turtles. What's very important is that we don't disturb the bog turtles during the particular season when they're in motion. And again, that coincides with the tree clearing restriction by a few days, and that's why we laid out those dates to be ultra conservative. There could be a stray bog turtle. So we will have the biologist there to make sure there's not a stray bog turtle.
Yeah, no,
And I know I'm making this sound, elementary, but I just want to make sure everyone understands as far as non-threatened or endangered species, okay? There's been testimony, even though I don't think this property's open, that people hunt on it. So obviously those folks are not protecting the non-threatened or endangered species.
I understand. What I'm suggesting is that if you have your biologist review and walk the site, and if they identify that there's nothing there and there's no bog turtles, then that is a thing that I think should be in the secret record prior to a construction phase. I agree that the biologist is a great idea during the construction phase to help mitigate any potential things that may happen and impact potential threatened and endangered species that you may or may not know about. But I also think that under the secret process, for the town board's knowledge set here, that it may be a good idea to have that come out during the secret process. And
So-
the report may very well.
Yeah, so I think we already did that. So
I thought
so we
there-
did
it's out
submit.
there.
That's what led to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So we already did that report from EBI. They filed that report under the NEPA process with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service concurred.
That's why I asked the question.
Yes.
So in other words, it wasn't
didn't think
it
so.
wasn't a mapping situation with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service just coming back and say there's no known species in the area according to our database.
Yeah, no,
It
we
was
s-
more
Correct.
more intense than that, right? Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Good. That was the basis
Yeah.
of my question.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll,
So we'll polish that memo and get it to the town board again.
when are they having are you guys meeting tomorrow on this?
Tomorrow is going to be, tomorrow is, we're reconvening the public hearing. And for everybody out there, tomorrow we are reconvening the public hearing on the cell tower topic.
And I know we're across the street. Hopefully we have some monitors or something set up because we'd like to go through those slides again with the full town board. I think it would be helpful.
Right,
They
and
are
just-
in the
just-
package, but
Right, for public knowledge, we are going to be across the street at the Capellini building, because we're anticipating a large crowd. And everybody's welcome, and we're looking forward to hearing everybody's comments.
thank you.
So are we okay with the memo?
Send it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you for your patience.
Motion closed?
We all got nervous.
Talk about the Scala application. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
God bless America.
Buonanotte.
So congratulations.
That was
Thanks,
One to
Aaron.
one.